everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Dan Haidt, and this is Flies in the Kitchen. So before we get started, I want to make sure you know that this is part 2 of my conversation with Ron Freeman. It was so good I had to split it up. If you haven't heard part 1 yet, why don't you hold off on this one and listen to the first half? You'll be glad you did. In the last episode, we got pretty deep into songwriting and process, and we talked a lot about Ron's house concert series that he and his wife put together from their home here in Columbus. Well, for this half, things go in a little bit of a different direction, and is the main reason I decided to make this a 2-parter. I just felt like it deserved its own space. I tell you, it gets deep there for a while, and I was really happy with how it came together. Hopefully you will too. Again, you can find more information about all things Ron Freeman at this episode's page at danhaidt.com/podcast. So let's just get right back to it. Here's the second half of my conversation with Ron Freeman, introduced by a song we talked about in part 1, Thank You for 39 Years, featuring Savannah Freeman, Ron's partner in life and on the stage.
Sundays when you still got up for every first date we've seen.
one of the things that attracted me to you and your music and your, I don't know, your building audiences and, well, not building audiences, but building.
Yeah, I don't have an audience.
No, building community. Community, was early on. You were, as you remember, booking music at 400 West Rich. That was way early.
That was
before they were anything.
They were just kind of getting started, and I just did they had a farmer's market that barely had any food.
Right.
It was like crafters.
There's a lot of crafts.
And that was actually a pain in the neck doing that.
Yeah.
And it was always hard to get anybody.
Well, it's the first time I mean, there were musicians I heard for the first time at those things, and it was really cool. Like I think I heard like Luke Harris for the first time over there. Yeah. And I was like, hey, this guy's cool. And so it just kind of helped to build community through meeting other musicians,
Yeah, just to have the music community, as a musician, to have the music community, you really need to just be making connections with other musicians.
Right.
And there's different ways of doing that. Going to shows, going to open mics, all that. I mean, playing shows with other people. I know guys that play solo shows in town, maybe 2-3 nights a week, but they always play by themselves. They don't co-share a bill or something, so nobody gets to know them. Right. No other musicians get to know them because we're all out playing our own shows. We're not just hanging out at bars all the time watching other people. Everybody's busy. So to me, you gotta make steps. I know I hated Columbus when I moved here because I just didn't really have any friends. And it took a while to make connections. And of course, it was going to be connections in the music world because who cares about anything that's not music? I don't. Those aren't important. No, I mean, it's the same in whatever community you want to be in. It's just, it's my hobby and interest. And
and you came to, I mean, it was you that corralled Zach Whitney and me to start this Third Sundays at Third Way thing. Yeah. And I mean, we met over at the Tree Bar. You brought your sub from
Bella's.
From Bella's, yeah.
Down the street.
You get this sub, and you sat and ate your sub, and you talked to us about this Songwriters on the Round idea that you had, and you knew where it was going to be, you knew what it was going to look like, and you were just like, hey, why don't we do this? And it's taken off too. I mean, it's taken
yours
off
took
slowly.
Off. Mine didn't take off this last month.
Well, it's taken off slowly, but I think more people are getting to know. I mean, we've only done it a few times. Yeah. We started in the spring, and so now we're not even in 6 months yet, or 6 or 7 months. But it's a great venue. I mean,
it's another place that people listen.
Spot. And it's a good listening room.
And I was looking for something like that for a while, and I had conversations about a couple of other places that might have worked out, but Third Way was better just size-wise. There was one place we almost did it that was really large and going to cost something that was we would need a good-sized crowd from the get-go, and that was going to be difficult. So Third Way just kind of location, because, I mean, for people who don't know, me and you and Third Way Cafe are all this West Side Columbus area. So Third Way is just a few blocks from me. So that's nice. And they're just very open to doing community things. I know Timothy and John Rush there who, they're all about the community.
Right.
And it seems like they really value something that is a community thing. I mean, they know we're not making money off of this.
Right.
It's our time because, it feels good to put people in a room and have people share songs that mean something to them. Everybody sounds better that way. Everybody feels better that way. So I've been excited for it. I want to keep building it. I'd love to see a good batch of regulars it's basically for people who don't know, it's a Songwriter in the Round thing, like a Nashville sort of thing, only it's here in Columbus, and so it's not hard to get into. You don't have to buy tickets in advance.
Right.
The talent level is pretty great. I mean, I've been to I've been to songwriters and around things in Nashville that weren't as good. And, I feel more heart at this one than I did in Nashville. So, and that's something I look for with people that I book, yeah.
Well, it's a good opportunity to build a community in that area as well, because they've got the 3060 Art right next door.
Yeah.
I know Heather got involved with coming over, next door and being a part of that.
And we've had shows there and have more planned.
Yeah. And it's just a neat burst of the arts happening, and it's very good for that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I'm confident that that's gonna build up a little more. It's just everything does. Nothing starts off gangbusters, but this has been a lot of fun. Everybody that's come has had a great time. I mean, $5 for get through the door, you get all your coffee and tea and anything you want, and sometimes snacks and sometimes dinner. So,
and I mean, I know a lot of people. I get this all the time from people who don't spend a lot of time in the Hilltop,
right?
Where we are, that they're surprised by like our house. They're surprised by what's going on at Third Way Cafe. And I know even before I moved here, that Hilltop has negative connotations in the city, and it has for years and years. And before I moved here, but we bought the house and we were getting ready to move, I looked at, we were so close to Westgate, like almost on the verge. And I know Westgate's this much more up and coming neighborhood. So before moving here, I would say Westgate instead of the Hilltop all the time, until like there's a point where I came to like, am I just saying that because I'm a little embarrassed of where I'm going to be? And, am I worried about my status rather than like what I am? And since then, I've never said I live in Westgate. We're the Hilltop. This is what we are. And I think people who don't spend a lot of time here, don't walk slowly down the street, don't realize that there's some really wonderful people here. There's some wonderful little houses, some wonderful little things going on that we're just, we're not. It's not a community that's respected in town. We called some West Side handyman service. I think that's what they're called.
Yeah.
For an anti-plug, West Side handyman service wouldn't serve us. Wouldn't come to the Hilltop and do work in our home. Just we needed like a fixture replaced, something simple that would have taken an hour or two. So West Side for them meant Arlington.
Oh, yeah.
No, I was like, we're the West Side. Our money's green. Like, we can pay you your rate. No.
Yeah.
Like, that's not their West Side.
Yeah.
And that makes me angry.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's why I never stop encouraging people to move here, because we need good people here. We need people that, I don't mean people that are going to fix up their houses and make, and flip them. I don't want a neighborhood filled with rich people that are pushing poor people out. Yeah. I want a neighborhood filled with people that will love their neighbor.
Yeah.
And so when I'm trying to encourage people to move here, it's because I think you're a good person, and I want good people on my street. I want somebody that, not just I'll get along with, but I think you'll be good to the person who's already living right next to you. And I mean, economically, most of the people or a lot of the people I know fall right into, the Hilltop kind of economic structure. But because of the negative connotations of the Hilltop, it feels like they'll bust their budget to live in a nicer neighborhood instead. And we've, ended up being able to be more comfortable here by having lower expenses living here and stuff like that, and actually have a house instead of renting in a nicer neighborhood that we can't really afford. And we have gotten to know our neighbors really well. The kids next door hang out on our porch and just chat all the time, and we love it, and I wouldn't want to live in a nicer neighborhood. I like being in a neighborhood that I feel, just talking about like encouraging people, I want people in the neighborhood that will love their neighbor, you know, as the Bible encourages us to love your neighbor, you know, it's kind of weird to say, but there are areas where your neighbor might need more love than a neighbor in a different neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In a lower economic area, you might have a neighbor kid who doesn't have the dad, and so he needs somebody to play catch with them. You know, and I see that on our block. I see people playing catch with their neighbor's kid. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and I've tried to do that and all that kind of thing. And it's, you know, if, you know, your love is valuable, and it's maybe more valuable amongst a poorer community than it is in Arlington or in Clintonville. And that's really been my mindset since I moved here, but I don't really want... It struggles because I don't want it to sound like, oh, like these people need me. Because they don't need me. They're going to survive anyway. I'm just hoping to be friendly and to be helpful if the neighbor needs a hand or whatever. And, you know, we asked this 11-year-old girl next door to get our mail when we go out of town. Mm-hmm. And you almost feel like, you know, she's so excited to, like, help out and get the mail. I'm like, really? Like, I don't know why. Like, it's just a chore. But, you know... I go to other neighborhoods and you don't see kids playing outside. You don't see people sitting on their porch talking with other neighbors, and you do here. And that means a lot to me, a lot more than like the feeling of status I would get if I could afford a nicer neighborhood. Mm-hmm. I might come off pompous there, or come off, I don't know. I don't know how I come off.
I don't believe you do.
Okay. I'm just going to get calls of people saying I like encouraging gentrification.
Well, I don't believe that's gentrification at all. I feel like there is enough of that happening. I mean, there's stuff of that happening 6 blocks east of here. You know what I mean? And in Franklinton, you see a lot of that happening. And you see a lot of that happening over near the Whitehall, Bexley area. And I mean, I talked to Hanif Abdurraqib a while back, and he grew up out there in Whitehall, and he sees that happening all the time. And that's not the solution. I think what you're talking about is just loving your neighbor and being a neighbor to people. It doesn't matter what your economic status is you're being a neighbor.
And I see in other neighborhoods condos going in that are $250,000 just out of the price range of most people I know, let alone most people in the community. Right. And I know having those down the street from me would make my property values go up. I'm planning on living here for 30 years. Like, property values going up just means my taxes go up. Like, that's not a super advantage to me. Like, I'm not looking to flip my house. I'm looking to have a home here and be a part of the community. So I don't want that. I would be more excited for vacant houses in the neighborhood to be fixed up and put out there for low-income housing. I would be more excited for that than I would be condos. I don't want a wealthier community in the neighborhood. You know, that's, I mean, anybody can move here that they want to, you know, but I'm happy with how it is. I just want to see people who, you know, every block is going to have good people and bad people, and people that are destructive and people that are a nuisance. But we have wonderful people on our block, you know, and I don't care, you know, where you're from or what you do. I just, you know, want you to come and, you know, be nice to me and let me be nice to you, and, you know, smile at strangers and talk on porches and all that sort of thing.
So you mentioned you were doing a little bit more of the, you know, solo shows. Yeah. And I noticed one is coming up pretty soon too. Yeah. What are you jumping into that a little bit for the future? Yeah. Well, with I mean, you know, it's funny because like, you know, personal details about me, but like the listener doesn't. That my wife is having a baby a month from this recording. Theoretically, a month. We don't know what a month holds. It could be 2 weeks. It could be 6 weeks. But she's due October 11th.
And because usually I do Lost Orchard shows with her singing. We split the singing, and she plays piano and everything. That she's definitely taking a... we're both cooling down for several months. I'm playing a solo show in a week and a half. Basically, somebody asked Lost Orchards, Rambling House asked Lost Orchards, and Savannah wasn't having it. And I didn't even ask her. I just said, like, I'll do it solo. I know she doesn't want to do it. But so we probably won't do any shows at all for the rest of the year. And then next year, I'm going to try and do more solo things. And then especially, I'd like to get out of town more. I need to make more out-of-town connections. I'm not excited to go and try and book out-of-town things. So if anybody's listening and wants to have me play your town, I'd be glad to. But I think in the future, Lost Orchard shows are probably going to be, 3 or 4 times a year, more special occasions, what with having a baby.
Right. That
it's not going to be an every weekend thing.
Right.
I mean, it was never an every weekend thing, but it is definitely something where I probably... Me writing the songs kind of puts a little bit more sense of purpose in me than, like, the rest of the band. It might be like, oh, this is a fun thing to do. And with me writing and creating it, there's a lot of where I just feel like I can't not go out and play music and connect with people with this. There is a real sense of, I don't know. It's strange because I basically have a dozen people that care about my music. And
you always say that, but I don't believe that's true.
Maybe it's 24. It's not a lot. I mean, I've listened to all your episodes, and I would guarantee that I have less people paying attention to my music than anybody else you've had on.
Well,
for sure.
That'll change after everyone hears this episode.
I try to, in a way, like, that bothers me because I want everybody to like me. Everybody wants that. But you have to kind of balance that with, I know what I do is not the sort of thing that everybody in the world's going to like.
Yeah.
I got to look at my audience is the people that respond to it. And I always think of when I worry about, like, why doesn't more people like me? Like, why don't more people like what I'm doing? And I think of when Michael Jackson put out Thriller, and it was the biggest album in the world.
Yeah.
Like, you start doing the math of how many copies he sold versus how many people lived in America, and only like 10% of the country bought it. And it's like the most popular album of all time. And I'm like, well, I don't, if I had 10% of people who hear me love me enough to buy a record, that's amazing, and you do the math. If like 1% of the people like what you do, you can have a career if enough people hear you and you get that 1% big enough.
Yeah.
But it is just, I feel like there's purpose to what I do, even if there's just, 20 people who care about it. I hope more people grow to care about it, and hopefully going and playing out of town will help. But I do feel like, it's important in ways that I can't always express. One of the things, as we were talking about the cynicism thing just briefly, but I was thinking about it all week, and and I know you generally position yourself, or like, not position yourself, but put yourself out there as the positive, optimistic, or whatever. And I know that I'm maybe more pessimistic and cynical and everything. And I look at that pessimism as that's like a logical way to look at the world when you see the evil and the awfulness in the world. And optimism, I feel it is important to balance all that with optimism. And I was reading Reinhold Niebuhr, and he mentioned something about, and I paraphrase that, like, optimism comes from a feeling that life has meaning, that there's meaning to what goes on. And there's even meaning, if you don't know what the meaning is, but still feel that there's meaning, that's enough to still have that optimism, you know? And so it's kind of like why I can do this for 15, 20 years, and with 15, 20 people caring about what I do, and still have some measure of optimism enough to keep doing shows, is that I feel like, well, there's meaning to doing it, and there's meaning to the songs, and some sort of like hopeful optimism in them, you know?
Yeah. I hear that. I struggle with meaning, you know. I wonder if I'm conveying meaning as much as I could, or if I'm finding it in the music, in my music or otherwise. Yeah. Honestly, I was talking to somebody yesterday. I was talking to yesterday I was talking to my parents about it. How I used to listen to music all the time. Yeah. I don't know, a whole lot more than I do now. Yeah. And I tried to pinpoint when that stopped, and I kind of narrowed it down to September 11th.
Oh, really?
Because after that happened, for a while I didn't listen to any music at all for probably a few weeks. Yeah. And I just couldn't. I didn't have it in me. Yeah. And so, and as I started turning the radio back on, I would tune it into like NPR or talk radio. Yeah. And that's kind of where it was. And then all of a sudden, you know, podcasts were born, and then I was hooked on that. So I still listen to music now, but it's not nearly to the same extent as it used to be. And I think, you know, when something like that happens, that just changes everything. You start to re-question meaning, and you kind of re-question, well, what is the, and you know, my history is in music, so it's like you would think, well, gosh, music is supposed to take all that away. It's supposed to make you feel better, and it's supposed to help. But I don't know. I mean,
that questioning meaning is super normal. And I mean, I did that too. I definitely have stretches where I go without listening to music much at all, like long stretches where I'm just podcasts and talk radio too. And been off of that and more onto music lately. Yeah. Kind of because like I listen to like NPR and just I hear the president's voice and I can't take 2 seconds of it. And it's like I better just put on some music to be safe. Yeah. And CDs too. Yeah, right. So I'm not interrupted by anything.
Yeah, right.
But that questioning if something has meaning is part of finding meaning. You know, I mean, I don't want to go into what I do just in life, or I mean, what I do as a songwriter is just, you know, an extension of how I view life. I don't want to go into that assuming that there's meaning. Maybe I go into it feeling like there's meaning and exploring the feelings, but not just like, oh, life has meaning, let's just keep going, you know, but to question it all the time. You're like, why is there meaning in this? Yeah. And like when I wrote Glenn Burke invented the high five, and I wish I had it recorded. I don't, but the story is, you know, such a mix of tragedy and hope.
Yes.
With Glenn Burke, the baseball player who is credited with inventing the high five, having basically had a shitty career because, you know, he was an openly gay baseball player and given a lot of flack from fans and from management and other players and all that kind of thing, and had a real hard time with it.
In the late
70s.
Late 70s, yeah.
70, he played 77 to 79, I believe. And then he, you know, after his baseball career, he ended up contracting AIDS and he died poor. I mean, he never made enough as a baseball player to, you know, actually be well off. And he basically was one of the tragic 1980s AIDS victims. And there's such a, you know, sad story to his life that he wasn't appreciated for what he was, that he wasn't championed as this progressive hero for being brave enough to be openly gay in the world of sports in 1978 or whatever. Like, that's amazing. That's a lot of bravery. And so he didn't even kind of, you know, get this hero's tale, which hopefully, like, the song gives a little, but, you know, I really latched on to, like, what is the high five, and it's just a way to connect with people. And, you know, we live for, you know, lifetimes and generations, and just randomly one day he comes up with this new way to connect with people, you know, and like the chorus is all talking about like new hope and new love and all this sort of thing that, you know, despite the tragedy of his life and how unappreciated it was, he did something really beautiful, and it was without thought. It was spur of the moment and spontaneous and just, you know, felt special. And so I'm like trying to find that balance in those things. Like, I mean, Thank You for 39 Years is all about, you know, how sad it is that this thing's going away, you know, but it's telling the story of all this good stuff that happened there at the same time. I'm just looking to find that balance all the time. And finding that balance means something. It's just really hard. It's such a struggle to do as a songwriter, as an artist, to kind of balance that meaningfulness and hopelessness that the world feels like all the time, you know. And I believe that it's the job of an artist to reflect the world and to reflect themselves onto their work. And so when I start to feel a certain way about the world, like I feel like, man, this world's a crummy place, but it feels so nice when my friends get together, you know. And there's another newer song that isn't recorded that's called Sad Songs for Happy Hour. And there's the last few lines of the second verse is, in heaven we won't get hungover. We'll still feel free even when we're sober. Eternity will feel like when friends come over and laugh all night long. And so it's, to me, it's like that balance of like, man, this part of life feels so good, and, you know, so much the rest of life feels so bad. And it's not just, it feels so bad because, I mean, my life is nice in a lot of ways. Like, I mean, I'm very thankful to have a loving family and to not be through struggle. But when you look around at the world, it's like, this is an unjust place and this is an evil place so much of the time, you know. And in the past few years, we're waking up to see that, like, the sweet old church lady next door hates Mexicans for no reason. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, why? Like, the last Mexican you ever talked to fixed your roof. You know, like, and this is the way you feel about people you don't know. And so you're struggling with that and trying to find these points of life that feel better, that make that other part not feel so bad. But hopefully in the balancing, that it brings people to the good things. I mean, I think so many people feel good listening to sad songs. And I'm one who feels that way all the time. I love sad songs. You know, and lots of people do. You love sad songs?
Yeah, I like sad songs.
Yeah.
I don't perform them very often.
No?
No.
Why not?
You know, as you were saying that, I was trying to ask that question to myself.
Yeah.
You know, I guess maybe because I feel like I don't want to get people down.
Okay.
I don't want to. So like if I'm playing a set, I like to keep people's moods up. Yeah. And I don't want to throw in, you know, You Were Always on My Mind. You know what I mean?
Really? I think people would love it.
I love that song.
Yeah, I think.
But sometimes there's not a place for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to sing, you know, Jack and Diane, and then I'm going to sing You Were Always on My Mind. You know what I mean?
I think it might work.
You think?
Well, people have that, you know, any old song like that, you got that nostalgic factor, and nostalgia just makes you feel good, even if it's a sad song, you know. But I mean, I don't have very many happy songs in my set at all. So a lot of what passes for a happy song is something just more up tempo. But it's not actually happy, you know. I do feel like Glenn Burke feels happy once the chorus comes along because it's probably the most like blatantly positive, hopeful thing I've had.
I don't know if it's happy or sad. I think it, like you said, it's just hopeful. It's positive. It's optimistic.
Yeah.
There's new hope for the hopeless. That's what you keep saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the challenge. I mean, I'd love to see you do more sad songs. I think that'd be great. I think everybody should do more sad songs. I should do a couple more happy ones.
I need to write, and that's been a challenge for me. Is in my own writing, I want to write more songs that are outside of my own comfort level. I want to write a song that is, I don't know if it's a sad song, but a song dealing with sadness, or I want to write a song dealing with anger. I don't have to write an angry song. Stephen Shanks told me that once. He said, you can write an angry song. You can write a song about anger, and it doesn't have to be an angry song. Yeah. And I remember him saying that. I was like, that's a very good point, because I don't like to write angry songs. Okay. So I
mean, I haven't really seen you angry. I don't get angry very easily, and I don't have a lot of angry songs. Yeah. So like that just doesn't come out of me. Like I'm trying to like express myself with what I do, and I wouldn't say like that's like me. But I don't even feel like I'm example. I don't even feel like sad most of the time. Sure. Like it's just like the 5% of the time I feel sad. Like that's when I sit down and write a song or something.
Yeah, I guess it's just it's just wondering where that's going to come from and what that's going to look like, and I don't know. I mean, I like the idea of the whole world is up for it. When I'm looking for, because I have more ideas for songs than I have time to write them. Yeah. Not that I have like an idea every day. I probably have ideas a couple times a month, and I take so long to write that I don't really have time to hash out everything like I'd like. Yeah. But my first and foremost thing is, have I heard this song before? Yeah. And if I haven't, then it might be a good idea. I'm always trying to just first and foremost avoid something that somebody else has done. Right. And it's funny because I have the same emotions as everybody else. But if I'm going to write a song, I need to express them in a way that's unique to me. And so you can express your sadness in a way that's unique to Dan. That might come off not even so sad, but still expresses yourself. Like, I do mine, and, everybody does their own way, but like just finding that way that is unique to you, that's when you step away from just being a craftsman in the idea of, the Nashville 9-to-5 setting appointments for songwriting, and you start to, merge that with artistry. That when I'm going to write a song that only Ron Freeman can write, or you write a song that only Dan Hite can write. That's all my favorite songwriters are like that. Like, oh, nobody writes like this person. That's what I love. And that's why I like a lot of that Nashville thing is not just boring to me, but it's boring to a lot of people because you don't feel like there's a real person behind it. Even though a lot of those people, like, they are real and they are really expressing their emotions, but they're intentionally writing it to be so universal it stops feeling all that personal to me. And it's a huge challenge to try and be personal and universal at the same time. You absolutely can do it. Lots of our favorite songs are personal and universal because everybody has the same feelings generally. We all feel joy and love and hope and regret, all those things. But, always on my mind. And I don't even remember who wrote it, but it's distinctive. And it's, it feels like regret in a certain way, in a real personal way. And, that grabs you and stays with you forever, Yeah. Well, thank you, Ron Freeman. I don't know why I've waited this long to talk to you.
Oh, you haven't even been doing this that long.
No, not really.
Just had a few episodes.
Yeah, you're. I think you're going to be number 10. 10. You're going to be in the double digits.
Oh, good. Now you're established.
I am. Right. Well, thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you.
Glenn Burke invented the high five on a day just like today. He reached up and slapped Dusty Baker's hand as he was crossing home plate. And it took a million years to find this way to relate, to share joy with our brothers, to celebrate. There's new joy for the joyless, new love for the loveless, new hope for the hopeless, new courage for those in fear. There's new life for the lifeless, new friends for the friendless, new faith for the faithless, a new way to say, I'm here. Glenn Burke hung out on Castro Street at the gay bars. He taught the high five to those guys and the major league stars. And if we can't bat 300 or hit the ball far, we can love as we've been loved. We can know who we are. There's new joy for the joyless, new love for the loveless, new hope for the hopeless, new courage for those in fear. There's new life for the lifeless, new friends for the friendless, new faith for the faithless, a new way to say, I'm here. We sing songs when we're lonely, draw pictures on the wall, write poems when we fall out of love and have no one to call. And it took 1,000,000 years for God to give us baseball. It took Glenn Burke just an instant to give it his all. There's new joy for the joyless, new love for the loveless, new hope for the hopeless, new courage for those in fear. There's new life for the lifeless, new friends for the friendless, new faith for the faithless, a new way to say, I'm here.
Did you catch that? Yeah, Ron came by earlier today and we recorded a quick version of Glenn Burke Invented the High Five, just so you could hear it. I tell you what, though, after that conversation, I definitely feel like there is more hope for the hopeless. And with how things seem to be going lately, I could use a dose of that. Hey, please head over to this episode's page at danheidt.com to find links to Ron's music, including this new recording of Glenn Burke Invented the High Five. I just love saying that title. How to find Freeman House concerts, and if you wouldn't mind, head over to iTunes and leave me a review. This is a fun thing for me to do, but it really is a lot of work, especially when I produce 2 episodes from one conversation. I don't have a producer or engineer or anything. This is a total one-man operation, and it'd be nice if folks heard what I do. All right, everyone. Thanks again so much for listening. Hey, go give someone a high five today, and let's go make some stories.